go. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Political Nerd. And, you know, tonight's going to be a little bit different. I'm just going to tell you up front, right? Now, you know, all of us nerds, we love to go buy what we consider investments. I mean, we get our baseball cards, our comic books, our number ones and number twos and number threes, and all the tchotchkes that we can get a hold of. And we keep them in their cellophane wrappers, and we keep them all nice and clean and pretty, you know, so that way we think down the road we're going to be able to sell these, right? And, you know, we also get movie paraphernalia. I mean, I've got a Ghostbusters pack over here that, you know I could probably go hawk for like $1,000, but you know, in 5 years now, Ghostbusters may not be a thing. But you know what? It's okay, because tonight we're going to teach you guys why we should invest, what we should invest in, and what's got us in the trouble that we have. Now, the gentleman I've got coming on is an amazing man. He's co-founder of Colonial Metals Group. And I'll tell you what, this guy is the Superman of super metals, and we really need to pay attention to what he says, right? So let's go ahead and bring him on. How you doing, Paul Stone? How you doing, sir?
I feel like I should rip my shirt open and show the S on my chest.
Well, you know, we all know that, you know, it's in the nerd world, it's stuff. But that stuff's not going to get us anywhere down the road, truly. I mean, in our hearts of hearts, we do know that. But in our mind, and we're like, oh, that's really worth something, you know. Because I still got that Superman #1 signed, and it's worth thousands of dollars. And you go somewhere and it goes like, yeah, I'll give you $20 for that. So, but let's talk about Paul Stone and Colonial Metals Group.
Yeah, we're a group of folks that understand how, you know, we've studied the same stuff that people ought to be studying. We aren't drawing information from a secret set of books. It's just all out there, easy questions to ask. And if you ask enough of them, you'll see the story materialize of government ineptitude, government largesse, and an ever increasing erosion of our financial fundamentals. And this isn't Bugs Bunny, you know, in a jet that's crashing to the earth, and he finally, just a few feet from smashing into the ground, finds the air brakes. Right. This is so the trajectory we're on ends with it crashing back to a reality that no one is going to enjoy when it gets there, and we're very close to it.
Now, this truly started back with Nixon, if I'm correct, and bringing us off the gold standard. Now, I have a double question here. My first question is why and how did that happen? And my next follow-up question would be, can that ever be rectified and go back on some sort of a better standard?
Yeah, sure. Great. Last question answer is yes, but only on the other side of a massive bankruptcy where you don't have a government, that's the size that it is today. We'd need to go back to the constitutional design, which is the federal government is pretty much less powerful than state governments.
Right.
So when World War II ends, Europe's in ashes. Everyone's economy's trashed except for ours. And so to rebuild, right, you need investment. You need some common ground. You need a common currency. And that currency needs to have a whole bunch more room in it, liquidity in it, so that other countries could start operating financially and breathe life back into their worlds again. And so the European nations got together at something called Bretton Woods, and they agreed that they would ship all their countries' gold to America, and America then could print a ton of money, but the money wouldn't be harmed in any way because it would just be rising up to the level of the new deposit of ounces in the federal vault, right? So if you had 100 ounces of gold in America, you could have $1,000 in the system. Now you have 100,000 ounces of gold in America, so you can create a lot more money. But the money is wholesome because really the money's gold and silver. Paper is just a better way to carry it. So the world is going along pretty well. War ends in 45. In 1960, and I'll be quick with this. I don't want to bore anyone to death. But in 1960, interest rates are 1%. 1%.
Wow.
So that tells you what? Tells you don't have any inflation. So think of when the Fed is raising rates, they're jumping on the brakes. They're smashing on the brake pedal, trying to slow an overheating economy. When they're lowering rates, they're jumping on the gas pedal. When rates are at zero, they're flooding the world with money and trying to keep its heart beating.
Right.
Like we had during Obama, we had 8 years of pretty much zero interest rate by a quarter. So it cost you 1/4% to borrow a dollar.
Okay.
And so in 1965, though, and this is where I'm illustrating the cheating. So Washington and Wall Street are already cheating. They're breaking the agreement they had with these European countries. They said, we'll offer you a placid, predictable, stable financial world with our dollar backed by gold. You can trust us. So in 1965, interest rates are 6%. Holy, insert expletive there. So how can you really create powerful, destructive inflation if you're on the gold standard? You kind of can't. The gold standard, folks, is just the moon to our oceans. Without the moon, we never met. There's 200-300-foot waves swirling all over the ocean. You are living nowhere near a beach. You don't even know what a beach looks like.
Right.
These waves are smashing into the coastlines all over the planet without a moon. That's how important the moon is, and that's what gold was to our financial world. It kept the waves small. It made the financial world navigable, gave everyone kind of a shot if they came up to the financial system and wanted to strike out on their own.
Right.
They had a shot at doing that. So what Nixon did, because the European countries are now bitching at him in the late 60s, and he's in the White House now. They're like, hey, we might want our gold back. We want you to crater the financial world, wildly embarrass the United States, and show Washington and Wall Street for a bunch of liars.
Wow.
So Nixon flies to Camp David with three other people. They spent 4 days there. And on Friday, as America's watching the show Bonanza, kind of like watching Friends, right, or Seinfeld, they break into the show for 3 minutes, and he just says, hey, gold doesn't have anything to do with our money anymore, and hee-haw is on next.
Oh, geez.
So my little saying to all this, like a principle, would be the lie gives you the benefit first and the lesson later.
Wow.
The truth gives you the lesson first and the benefit, everlasting benefit, later. So Nixon was covering up a lie. And so everything from that decision 54 years ago is going to be an enormous, complex web of lies and half-truths and falsehoods. And that's what we live in today.
So no elected official ever came up behind him or succeeded and said, hey, look, we really made a big mistake. We should kind of go back and let's fix this before it gets completely so far out of hand that it's not fixable.
Yeah, they all would have known. But here's what we're facing next: Stalin. So now it's Nixon's thing. The Vietnam's going. We got to stop Soviet Union. We got to stop communism from spreading.
Right.
What are we going to need for that? Well, we're going to need money. So now they have this new little trick. What Nixon did is he hooked the federal government up to its own financial power supply that had never existed before and is a falsehood.
Right.
So now the government can just do stuff without you and me being included in the decision making. Now they can solve problems without coming to us and going, help us figure this out. Should we prioritize this? We're going to have to cut budget from these programs to come up with enough money. Is this something we should even approach? Not all problems can be solved. They didn't have to come to us anymore. And so now they're spending money on things that there really isn't money for, and they're doing it without us being involved. And so when Reagan comes to the White House, he's got women marching in D.C. like, we want equal rights. And you would think, for what? Well, we're entering the workforce now because dad's income isn't enough to cover the cost for the family anymore.
Right. Yeah.
Why are you in the workforce? You were in the bomb factories, when the men were overseas fighting World War II, but now you're coming to work? Like, what's going on? Aren't you
Right.
mothers? And he's got the war on drugs, and Nancy's like, just say no. So you're creating a
Just
misery in
say
the
no.
country.
Yeah. Right.
Kids are raising themselves, latchkey kids. You're creating
I'm
a
one of
misery in the
those.
country. We're seeking drugs,
Yeah.
and women are going to work. Reagan
Right.
could have stopped it right there and said, what's causing this? Oh, printing money. You're
Printing
causing
money.
inflation where no one can feel at peace anymore.
Man. And it's just
That's
gone.
how it happened. That's it in a nutshell.
And it's just literally spiraled so far out of control right now. We would have to
Yeah.
do a complete reset.
Well, no, Mother Nature does that for you, right?
Okay.
So man's law, like Mother Nature's laws, don't need to be written down. You bump into them, you remember.
Yep.
Man's laws just written down on a piece of paper. You can honor them or you can ignore them, but they're just written down somewhere. Mother Nature doesn't give a damn about man's laws. So the dollar was worth 100 cents forever and ever and ever until the Fed was created out of the genius of some bankers in 1913, and immediately the dollar started losing its buying power. It was worth 56 cents in the year 2000, and today it's worth $3. So it would take you $33, $20, $25 to go back in time in the 40s or 50s and buy something that costs $1.
Wow.
So if you're killing a resource to support the world, the governments around the world have created for us to enjoy,
right.
that resource has 3% left to give. So just to internalize that in an easier way for everyone watching, just imagine the headlines tomorrow is holy. The scientists got it all wrong. The geologists got it all wrong.
Right.
The oil industry got it wrong. There's only 3% of the world's oil remaining still in the ground.
Oh.
That's how you internalize what the dollar being worth 3
Yeah.
cents is, because that's a resource that's used before energy is used.
Yes.
And that's the fragility of this fake falsehood that Nixon kicked off in 1971. If the dollar was the steel in your financial world,
Right.
it's 97% weaker than when it was first constructed.
Oh my Lord. So, okay. So it's not good, right? And now yeah.
No.
I'm thinking I'm liking my comic books. I'm just saying.
Yeah, go back to that reality.
Right? That almost sounds like it's kind of safer. So do you think what Trump is coming in doing with Doge and those kind of people, do you think that is going to make a dent and kind of straighten some things out maybe?
Only if massaging cancer patients gets rid of cancer.
Yeah. That's not going to.
So, and we can look at how it's built, right? We can go under the covers. So I learned a long time ago, didn't apply it to much use until later on, but I learned from a cop. He was like a security guard at a company I worked at. A great guy, awesome guy. LA cop, Rampart, like in the, there was some ugly times in that division in LA at one point, right? So he said, Paul, it's always the simplest reason for why something's happening. So I learned from that to go to the source of things. You can understand almost, I'll probably will never get my head around quantum physics, but I understand other things here that we can just deal with on an earthly basis every day, that you can get to the source of anything complicated, you'll understand it. And the source of all this is trying to have something for nothing.
Right.
And so when you look at how government is constructed, when the base closures were going off, anyone old enough to remember that the Cold War's over, let's close all these bases. And everyone's like, close the bases, save the money, cut the spending.
Yep.
And every congressperson was like, just don't close the bases in my state.
Right.
Right. And so how is Congress going to send a budget $2 trillion light to the White House for signature when it will mean tons of things don't happen in that state anymore or in all the states?
Wow.
So now
it's almost, so now I'm sitting here going, I'm daunted by the thought of even if it can be fixed in my lifetime, maybe my kids. But okay, so some of us have money that have been put aside and stuff like that. Let's get into some of the metals, because I do have a quick question, and I probably should have asked you before the show, but I'm going to ask you anyway. So Trump is asking Ukraine to give us rare earth metals. will that help the metal investment side for us?
Just in all of these dealings that start with corporations getting great deals,
Yeah.
since 2010, I did a quick measurement. It seemed like corporate profit since 2010 is up 350%. Payroll is up 80%. Commodity prices are up 3 to 4 to 500%.
Right.
So all of these deals don't make it better for the people. They don't get doubled their paycheck because there's a new AI deal going on.
Correct.
Right? So yes, one of the things I've always been curious about is in Ukraine, they produce 90% of the xenon gas needed to make a chip. And in Taiwan, they make 90% of the chips in the world.
Right.
So kind of interesting that you want the source of all chips and you want the source of xenon gas by Russia. I don't know if that
Right.
means anything, but it's interesting.
Yeah.
And so, no, you can create more economic activity in America by the way how Trump thinks. He's a business person. He's looking to create more action. But if you're lowering the corporate tax rate, that just means corporations, they're not going to start handing out raises to people that work for them. Like, hey, we're dealing in this great new bounty and we're going to share that with you guys.
Right.
Because that's corporations by their design. They're supposed to cut profits to the nth degree and raise revenue, and that generates the biggest profit margin they can make, and that's their ecosystem.
Right.
So they're not doing anything wrong. It's just that anything artificial screws the common man and makes, on the periphery of that system, extreme wealth. Like in 1990, we had 66 billionaires. Today we have 1,000.
Right.
But debt went from 3 trillion to 36 trillion.
Right.
The dollar went from 56 cents to 3.
Right.
And when you said maybe in your lifetime, it's just a word of caution. If the dollar's losing on average 2 pennies of buying power a year since the year 2000,
Right.
then you have maybe a year or two left before this resource is exhausted and everything it supports is also going to fall back to a realistic level.
Right. So, hence, it's a really good idea to get some metal, whether it be gold, silver, platinum, whatever, and
What
get it
that
where
means
you
is-
kind of holds on to.
You've relocated your dollars away from known risks. And I'm not a financial advisor and I'm not
Yeah,
a trained
no.
economist. I take a farmer's approach to this. So I'm saying if my money in this building on the left side of the street is going to suffer a blow from a meteor, and I move my money over to the right side of the street, then I don't suffer any damage. So if I'm in a dollar-driven world and that's where all the damage will happen and is occurring slowly, if I'm not there when the meteor hits, I don't end up a dinosaur.
Right. Okay.
That's all it's about.
And now, so Colonial Metals Group, you actually, we're going to show your website here in a second because it looks to me like it's fairly easy to go on, sign up, talk to someone that's there in your group and go, this is what I've got. Can we put this somewhere where it's going to be safe?
Yeah, you can move 401k funds, IRA funds, SEP funds, any type of retirement account generally is there's some explaining to do. It's a little process, but yeah, it's very straightforward. The original IRA custodian, when the IRA was created in 1974, I believe, was a non-bank custodian that would let you invest in real estate, mineral rights, private placements, all kinds of stuff. Trade cattle in and out of your IRA if you're a farmer or a rancher.
Right.
Rental income properties are eligible inside this type of IRA. So a little discussion, funds move over and you're in physical gold and silver that you own and it's titled in your name.
Wow. Okay. See, I think everybody has the misconception that when you start doing this, you literally have chunks of gold that's at your house or in a vault or something like that that's locked up. That's not what it's really all about.
Bars and coins.
Okay.
And coins
Bars.
that you
Ooh.
personally own that
Show
came
that
from the
again.
earth.
I
Yeah,
like that
that's a
bar.
5-ounce bar, yeah.
Oh, see now that to me that's shiny and pretty, and that's what we like. So that's what you get. So when you go with Colonial Metals and we start investing, that gets sent to us, or do you hold on to it?
Yeah.
For
And
us?
so if you're writing a check, you're creating a transfer from a checking account, if you will.
Right.
That gold and silver can ship to you or to a depository, which are private firms. They're all insured. The ones we work with are tier 1 facilities, and they're all
Okay.
insured by Lloyd's of London.
Nice.
And if you're working with IRA funds, then that gold and silver goes to the depository as well, and an account with your name on it. There's two depositories we work with where everything is segregated. Right. So all of your stuff is in your own little space or big space in the depository. They're in red states, states that might throw down against a oppressive, control grabbing government one day, if that ever came about, like Texas or Idaho.
Right.
And the reason why just IRA or retirement account precious metals is stored in the depository in your account, to take that home, to take personal possession of that would be a taxable event. So you could certainly have it shipped to you as well out of the IRA account using those funds. But any withdrawal, and I'm not an accountant, but generally any withdrawal from an IRA is taxed as ordinary income.
Yeah, I was always told
there's no
that we're
taxes
never
or
going to touch
penalties.
that. Right.
Yeah, no taxes or penalties for doing physical gold and silver in your IRA.
Wow. And, okay, so the average nerd is going to call you up and go, okay, I'm interested. How long is this? How big of a process is this?
It's a few minutes on the phone, FedExing you something to sign. Yeah, you sign it, FedEx it back on our dime, and the process gets going. And then, it generally concludes in a week or two. We would move to finality in a day or two, but the whole process includes some other parties that are involved, and they take about 2 weeks for it to wrap up. If you're just writing a check, we send you a FedEx to pick it up. Talking about precious metals the next day and shipping to you soon after that.
Wow. Okay.
Very simple.
That is very simple. And sometimes when we, especially, us nerds, we're nerds, right? We're geeks. We think things through, and sometimes our brain, we overthink it, and we're like, oh no, this has got to be it cannot be that easy. It's going to be harder than that. And it's just not.
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. And one of the neat things for the nerds, and the how stuff comes about, the astronomists figure that gold and silver and rare earth minerals were created by two colliding suns. So before the Earth, and as the Earth was even forming, when meteors were just smashing into each other and kind of sticking in that heat, was creating molten rock, and asteroids and stuff just smashes into each other, and the Earth kind of forms, other planets form. Two suns would have collided a long time ago. Right. And from those gaseous giants, those hydrogen giants, out come physical metals, physical matter, which is pretty outstanding.
That's cool.
But the gold and silver you would hold in your hand is older than the planet you're standing on. That's pretty cool.
I did not know that. Yeah. And it's not like we have a infinite supply of this, correct?
No, I mean, it could be all over the Earth, but 70% of the Earth is covered by an ocean.
Right.
So it's very finite.
Right. So when we all know about platinum, we all know about silver, we all know about gold, but what are the other rare earth metals that you guys can handle?
We just focus on, wealth protection assets, mainly gold and silver, because they've been money, ever since man was like, hey, maybe we should have a medium of exchange that's as real as the chicken eggs I'm buying, right? Or I want, so gold and silver's been it. Generally, rare earth minerals, for individual consumption, I've heard of people investing in them before, don't have the smoothest ride when exiting those transactions. Again, no financial advice, because you're not making catalytic converters. You're not making lithium batteries. And so, we want to keep it simple. If you're in a dollar and the dollar's being printed to death and eventually that resource is gone, don't be there when it's gone. What other type of currency is not man-made to be in before that implosion occurs? Gold and silver's it.
Wow. Well, we got about 3 minutes left, and so I'm going to let you. If there's something you want to say, now's the time to say it. But I just got to have it back when there's 30 seconds left, so I can tell everybody goodbye and let them go digest this big monstrous show that we had tonight, because it's really been really good, and even my brain's going, I got to get on this.
So here's how these huge destructive numbers and measurements can be internalized. First of all, or even believed. Einstein said, he said lots of great things, but one of them that applies here for sure, and the operational offerings of the government, any central government, maybe most governments, is that the mind that created the problem cannot possess the solution.
Ooh.
What that means is the mind that says it's okay to throw the rent money down on black and spin the wheel
Yeah.
has no vision, is lacking the vision of what a negative outcome from doing that would cause in that person's life, the reverberations of that.
Right.
And so if a government can say, yeah, let's lie to our European partners and lie to our people in this country and we'll make a fake money system to cover up that lie, is they don't see that that will then cause the price of everything to rise, the factories to close, the jobs to go overseas. Moms have to quit their job and come into the workplace. Imagine the agony of having a newborn and going back to work a month or two later. I feel for anyone who's struggling with that, and I understand why they have to make that hard choice. Otherwise, we're living under a bridge.
Yep.
And just the devastation that has been created by these decisions that also doubled down on Nixon's and worked to obscure that the government is actually the culprit here, go right back to its lack of vision that almost would be the cause of almost any grave error. Just couldn't see how that suck.
Right.
So if you take that and then you zoom out and you go, well, we gave them a shot at trying to manufacture a utopia with us for us. They just needed all the money they needed. You know, the money supply is 22 trillion in it and government debt is 36 trillion. So there's $58 trillion that have been thrown at our existence in the last 24 years.
Wow.
And the last piece to understand that you might find helpful is none of us are bad people. God doesn't make junk, but we're confused and we're mystified and we're stressed and we're disenfranchised. And that just leads to perhaps lots of bad behavior, which we then take on as shame.
Right.
But we can wake up once we know and have the vision of where the source of these issues are and start living lives independent, perhaps, of chasing the financial gerbil wheel and chasing this elevated level of commerce that if we finally get there, we'll be at peace, we'll be able to coast. Happiness isn't just a feeling.
Right.
It's a place.
Wow.
And you get there from making choices inside yourself that's where you are. That's where you are. And you start not needing things from the outside to make you feel better. Those things come from inside.
Well, Paul, man, everybody at home, you got to go watch this over and over again because I know I'm going to, because everything you said is nothing but pure gold. Paul, thanks for being on. Everybody, thanks for watching Political Nerd. We'll see everybody next week on The Political Nerd.